knowing that our enemies have been vanquished, that now at last we are at peace. But as we approach the Golden Gate Bridge on our return trip from the war with Japan, let us not forget that to be a lasting peace, it must be a militant peace. Enemies are both born and made. The United States must vigilantly guard itself against aggression, yet cooperate to the utmost in perfecting a world organization which will function with smoothness, efficiency, and certainty. We are all glad to be back. We want to stay back for all time to come. To those who will never return, we pledge our hearts and strength to keep strong the forces within our country with which to oppose any aggressor nation.
You have just heard Admiral William F. Halsey, commander of the American Third Fleet, as he spoke from the deck of his flagship, the U.S.S. South Dakota. And this is Joe Hainline. I switch you now to the Naval Observation Tower on Golden Gate Bridge. Come in, Clarence Leisure.
Thank you, Joe Hainline, and good morning, everyone. At this time, we are joining the city of San Francisco in a hearty welcome home to Admiral Halsey and the officers and men of the triumphant American Third Fleet. Our microphone is situated above the United States Naval Signal Tower at the south end of the famous Golden Gate Bridge. From here, we will attempt to switch to a United States Navy blimp, which even now is cruising above the battle wagons and warships of the Third Fleet, which are steaming home towards one of the finest landlocked harbors in the world. Then we will return our listeners to the deck of the battleship South Dakota, flagship of Admiral Bull Halsey, Admiral William Frederick Halsey, Jr., to be exact, one of America's greatest naval heroes, returning to take part in American Navy Day celebrations this month. This fighting admiral, this old sea salt who comes from a family of seafaring men, is aboard the South Dakota. The battleships, the cruisers, destroyers, and other vessels now are approaching San Francisco Bay under command of Rear Admiral J.F. Shafroth. As yet, from our vantage point, we are unable to see these Third Fleet warships. Already the crowds, though, are gathering along the huge suspension bridge from San Francisco to Marin County, and plainly visible to the east at what is called the marina, the shoreline is literally packed with San Franciscans and friends and relatives of these Third Fleet boys who had such a big part in eliminating Hirohito's Navy, who destroyed or damaged 10,355 Japanese aircraft. The biggest crowd is in front of what is called the San Francisco Yacht Club. For just 1,000 yards from there, inside the harbor, the South Dakota will anchor and formally review the remainder of the fleet units. Coming aboard at that time will be Governor Warren of California and Mayor Lapham of San Francisco to extend greetings and the very best that San Francisco can offer, for this is a Navy town. There are crowds on Russian Hill, at Coit Tower, and from hotel and apartment house vantage points in this city of hills. The weather here today is very heavily overcast, but across the way we see a big sign on Angel Island, the United States Immigration Station, which says in bold letters, "Welcome home and well done." From Franklin Evans, our announcer on the blimp, we have learned that the expected order in which the ships will soon enter the Golden Gate is as follows. First, the battleships South Dakota, Alabama, Wisconsin, and Colorado in that order. Then the cruiser Vicksburg and the destroyers De Haven and more, as well as others. Fighters and bombers will roar overhead as the fleet arrives, and San Francisco will cheer and applaud, and the whistles, everyone available, will go full blast. Tomorrow, the men will parade down Market Street and receive the keys to the city at the City Hall. Then, tomorrow evening, a true San Francisco welcome will be the lot of Halsey and his staff at famed Palace Hotel in San Francisco. Incidentally, before we attempt to transfer our broadcast to where the fleet is at this moment, we might say that Admiral Halsey's first air command was on the aircraft carrier Saratoga, which is now in port after bringing more of our fighting men home yesterday. And this fleet today is bringing thousands more home for discharge. And Halsey was at sea when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor and exercised the sole defensive patrol until February 1st of 1942. And now we're going to attempt a switch to... Evidently, we have no contact yet with our Navy blimp. So we'll tell you a little bit more about this Third Fleet, which is coming in here today. This Third Fleet made the first carrier attack on the concentrated land-based air in the Central Philippines on September 13th of 1944. The support of the amphibious landings and conquest of air and naval bases at Peleliu and Angawa Islands in the Palau Islands were September 15th to October 14th. The Third Fleet conducted the first air attack on the Japanese in Manila Harbor September 21st and 23rd. And now, we're going to return you to the fleet. At this time, we return you to NBC's Joe Hainline. Incidentally, we just have word that we can contact our Navy blimp, so at this time we take you to Franklin Evans aboard the United States Navy blimp.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Franklin Evans speaking from the U.S. Navy blimp K-13, piloted by Lieutenant Norman Portier and Lieutenant Commander L.B. Kane. At this very moment, ladies and gentlemen, we are circling above the USS South Dakota, Admiral Halsey's flagship, about 3 miles off the Farallon Islands, which are about 20 miles off the Golden Gate of San Francisco. As we flew out here this morning, we flew high at about 3,000 feet in brilliant sunshine, but again, one of San Francisco's famous fogs has come down and has covered the sea, and at the moment, the ceiling where we are is about 100 feet. As we came down almost on top of the South Dakota, Admiral Halsey's flagship, and then started back through the line of ships, going across the ships as we came through them. I might run through the order just for your information. Following the USS South Dakota are 6 submarines: the Maya, the Stickleback, the Kraken, the Pilotfish, the Loggerhead, and the Puffer. Behind the submarines are 3 destroyers: the USS Behaven, the USS Samuel M. Moore, and the USS Blue. Following that come the USS Colorado, the USS Alabama, and the USS Wisconsin, with the USS Vicksburg in the cruiser class in between. We flew back over top of all of these ships and then came up to the head of the line to Admiral Halsey's flagship, the USS South Dakota, over which we are now circling. A very interesting thing is the homecoming pennant on each ship. The pilots of the Navy blimp in which I am now seated tell me that there's 1 foot of this pennant for each man aboard. It's 1 foot in length for every man aboard every ship, and every ship has its own pennant. The pennant extends from the mainmast across the stern of the ship, and right now as we come to the port side of the USS South Dakota, the homecoming pennant stretches way across the stern of the ship, and I understand that it's about 1,500 feet long. A very, very long and very, very decorative homecoming pennant. Red, white, and blue. The ships are immaculate, ladies and gentlemen. They are clean, they're shining. The men in their dress blues line the rails and wave to us as we go by. And at this moment, we're crossing the bow of the USS South Dakota. You know, the record of the Third Fleet is one of tremendous devastation heaped upon a faltering enemy. For example, in the 5 months beginning in September 1944, Admiral Halsey's ships and planes sent more than 1 million tons of enemy warships and merchant shipping to the bottom of the sea. Quite a record. 90 warships and 573 merchant ships were included in this bag. In addition, 7,315 Japanese planes blasted from the skies, and I could go on and on and on. But now I see that my time on this program is up, and so it's time to switch again. And riding on the USS South Dakota is NBC's Joe Hainline, who has traveled all the way from Tokyo with Admiral Halsey's Third Fleet. And as you heard, Joe Hainline speak to you at the opening of this program, talking to Admiral Halsey. And now this is Franklin Evans, speaking from the U.S. Navy blimp K-13, flying about 100 feet above the USS South Dakota, switching you to Joe Hainline on the USS South Dakota.
Once again, we're speaking from the quarterdeck of the South Dakota. Within the next few minutes, the people on this ship will be having their first glimpse of the Golden Gate Bridge in a long, long time. To them, it'll be a wonderful experience, something that they have built up in their minds through the agony of months of combat as a symbol of home. And as the towering spires of the bridge poke their frames out of the mist, there'll be a great joy on this ship, and that I can promise you. It'll be the biggest joy that we've had out here since August 15th, when we got the official announcement of Japan's surrender. Then, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco was nothing more than a dream to most of these men. They'd become numbed by the realities of war and skeptical about ever living to see this longed-for sight again. But at last it's here, the accomplished reality of returning home with a victorious fleet. Actually, the group that I can see from the head of the line aboard the South Dakota is only a part of the vast armada that's returning to the United States today. Other task groups at this minute are approaching 2 more West Coast ports with many more happy, homeward-bound men. They're putting into Seattle, that's in Washington, and into San Pedro, California. Already plans have been made for getting the dischargees off the ships immediately and speeding them on their way to separation centers inland. The men who are with this force will be started to these centers before tomorrow night. There are some 5,000 dischargees returning with us now. They line the rails and crowd the decks of the 14 ships lined out behind us. Many of these men are at this moment making their last cruise aboard an American naval vessel, and there are few who will regret the parting. Since we left Pearl Harbor, 6 submarines have joined the flotilla, and an additional destroyer has also made its appearance with the fleet. Inside of about an hour, we will actually pass under the bridge for one of the greatest welcomes San Francisco has ever presented to a naval unit. The reception plans of the City of the Golden Gate should rival a similar tribute it paid to the Navy's Great White Fleet back in 1908. Over 1 million persons lined the shores that day in May to greet 16 warships as they steamed in through the fog. A similar number of grateful Americans are expected to herald the Third Fleet today to the accompaniment of every bell, whistle, horn, and noisemaker in the Bay Area. An official greeting party will board the South Dakota when it anchors off San Francisco's shoreline, while other units pass in review. California's Governor Earl Warren, with Mayor Roger Lapham of San Francisco, will accompany Admiral Chester Nimitz to his battleship to welcome Admiral Bull Halsey. They will be joined here on the Sodak's upper deck by some 50 other high-ranking Army and Navy officers. Among them will be General Willis H. Hale, 4th Air Force Commandant, Admiral Royal S. Ingersoll, Eastern Sea Frontier Commandant, and Rear Admiral Carlton H. Wright, 12th Naval District Commandant. The South Dakota Band is gathered here on the quarterdeck. In charge is Chief Warrant Officer James W. Rogers. We'll turn the microphone around now, and maybe you can pick up a few strains of the number that they're playing. Yes, that was San Francisco, Here We Come. They were playing it when we left Tokyo Bay September 20th. It was their theme song as the fleet steamed out of Buckner Bay on Okinawa after picking up dischargee passengers 4 days later. We heard it when we left Pearl Harbor 6 days ago. But never have these men played it with the enthusiasm they're showing here this morning. Because this morning, it's San Francisco, Here We Are. And this is Joe Hainline. I switch you now to the NBC studios on the mainland.
The National Broadcasting Company has just presented a land, sea, and air broadcast of the Third Fleet as it approaches San Francisco. You have heard Admiral William F. Halsey, commander of the Third Fleet, NBC's Joe Hainline speaking from the flagship South Dakota, Clarence Leisure at a naval signal tower on the Golden Gate Bridge, and Franklin Evans in a naval blimp over the homecoming fleet. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here are the headlines of the hour. President Truman has summoned the entire War Labor Board to the White House for a conference on WLB's role in framing peacetime wage policies. Treasury Secretary Fred Vinson opposes the House plan for tax reductions 2 years from now. The State Department says Washington is ready to recognize the Renner government in Austria. Pierre Laval has been executed for treason. Russia is reconverting its tank industry to peacetime production. The Dutch have offered a truce to rebel natives in the Netherlands East Indies. Those are the headlines of the hour. This is the National Broadcasting Company.